Well, this is going to be a longer weather forecast where I cover all the big topics. Number one, also I'm looking ahead to snow, the weekend forecast for skiing and for snowboarding. Also, we'll be talking about big other issues such as what's going on in Los Angeles. So we are mostly focused on the weekend, and it all ties together. So let me take you through it. Some of it good, some of it not so good. But where we're going in the next several minutes is that we're going to be focusing in on how it all connects together. Now, first of all, you got to start right at the top. What's going on in California at the moment is very classic of what we thought might happen going into a La Nina season during our wet part of the year, which is going to be from October all the way through usually about April or so is when it starts to shut off, which is drier than normal conditions in Southern California and wetter than normal conditions for the Pacific Northwest. That's pretty much what's happening, although even the Pacific Northwest is dealing with our giant ridge of high pressure. They've been trending drier lately during this current pattern. But let's take you all the way back to October 1st. The California-Nevada River Forecast Center is an unbelievable resource. They focus mostly on river forecasts and also flooding. They're very vital for information when we're experiencing periods of high rain and then flooding. But they also keep track of all the data at once, and you can take it back to the beginning of our water year, which begins on October 1st, and see where we are percentage-wise compared to average. Now, there's the scale at the bottom there. The numbers, I'm sure, are pretty tiny to you. All you need to know is that yellow is about average, green and blue is above average, then the various shades of red to dark red, that's how far below average we are. I think what a lot of people are missing in regards to the Southern California fires is that they want to jump to all the pet topics that interest them and that they're concerned about, which are huge when it comes to fire. But look, at the end of the day, fire will grow rapidly anytime the vegetation is extremely dry, the air is dry, and the winds are strong. And that's exactly what we have. Just talking about base level precipitation, they've barely seen anything in Southern California, in some places literally zero. And then when you start to add it up with rain in the bucket, I mean, this is what we're talking about. LA has seen almost no rain at all since the beginning of the rainy season. And even for some of these numbers, it was really early in the season. So any benefit is long gone. For far Northern California, they're still hanging in there above average. But everybody across the state now is now moving day by day by day, deeper and deeper into falling behind below average rainy conditions and also for snow as well. Now, the last time we've seen significant rain in Los Angeles and also for San Diego was way back at the end of March. So we are now approaching almost 10 months of rain-free conditions for Southern California. That is a very big deal. And if you're wondering, well, yeah, we've had dry winters before. No, we've not seen this before. This is the driest start to the rainy season we've seen in that part of the world since we've been keeping records. So this is a very big deal. If you feel like this is very unusual fire behavior and how we're dealing with this toward the end here of January, it absolutely is. So looking at the just dryness of the vegetation, usually when I show you this around January, you'll see some greening up of the natural grasses in some of these areas here. Still totally dead. It's not reinvigorated whatsoever. There's no moisture in the soil or in the vegetation at all right now. And then the air above it is also very dry. What we saw yesterday break out was the Hughes fire. This is near I-5 north of Santa Clarita along the Grapevine. Very busy road, by the way, each and every day. It's a huge transportation and corridor for all of California. If that thing's shut down, then it's a big deal. And it was shut down yesterday because of the fire. I just want to give you a quick update. The last time that I did this, we had some rough estimates of where the Eden fire and the Palisades fire would end up with structures burned. They are now squarely number 2 and number 3 on the list. Number 1 all time in California, I think we forget how bad the Camp Fire was in Butte County. Started near Concow, went clear through that community, all of Paradise, parts of Magalia, all within about 6 to 8 hours. Unbelievable the amount of destruction. We saw how rapidly things burned for the Eden and Palisades fire. So those two happening essentially at the same time is a very, very big deal. Okay, let's get to our local weather forecast. We've got our continued cold mornings and also our mild afternoons. It's been very weird living in this world because it's so cold. Everyone's bundled up as they head off to work or school, what have you. And then by the middle of the day, it's just a nice day and people have been enjoying the sunshine. Unfortunately, though, Southern California is still dealing with their baseline fire conditions because it's still windy, it's still dry, and we have these ongoing gusts that are approaching 40, 50 miles per hour. It's very windy in San Diego early this morning, along with all the mountains near LA. and they have not only high wind warnings, which is just for straight up wind gusts that could cause power outages, tree limbs coming down, all sorts of wind-related damage. They also have the air being very, very dry, and so the fire conditions are bad today, overnight tonight again, and they should start to ease up tomorrow. Getting to our local wind situation, we had some breezy conditions yesterday, but now we're entering a phase where the winds for the next couple days are going to be fairly calm. That's not going to be great for air quality. Earlier this morning with calm conditions and that high pressure just squeezing down, you have a lot of sinking air. It traps any of the pollution, most notably for the lower elevations, for Sacramento, for Stockton, Modesto. And a lot of this pollution is coming from wood burning and fireplaces. Now, I get why that happens because obviously it's cold, so you want to stay warm. But when it happens day after day after day, there's no place really for the air particles to escape. So you get into this cold weather pollution situation. The smoke rises. So in some cases, when it's really cold, you can actually physically see this with your eyes. The smoke will come out of fireplaces and then just sink and go right back down to the ground level, staying in the neighborhood where it originates from. Now, if you magnify this for community, it really does add up to a big problem. And that's why all the officials that monitor air quality right now, they're not worried about smog and ozone pollution, which is related to smog. They're really worried about these light inversions, light winds, the low inversion, and all the PM 2.5 small particles created by wood burning that lingers around and really can give you some health issues. So because of that, they have various stages of burn bans, and they take this very seriously. If you keep doing it when you're not supposed to and you've been warned, they can actually fine you. 62 degrees for the high temperature in Pollock Pines. I mean, let's be honest here. This midwinter break in the rainy pattern has been enjoyable. I mean, we are paying the price for it in Southern California, but you know, if you just are living your daily life, you know, 64 degrees in Galt later on this afternoon and 63 for Sacramento is nice. There's a lot of things you can do right now that you normally can't because it's cold or rainy or we've got storms to plan around, but this has been a long period of dry and settled weather. I want to get back to the winds here for a second because this is when we're going to start to see things change for this upcoming weekend. What we've got coming in on Saturday is a very strong section of wind, gusts up to 45 miles per hour or so. This is the northern end of the Sacramento Valley, out mostly toward the west side. So you'll really notice this if you're driving up I-5 once you get past Woodland or so. It's going to be really strong. It's going to be fairly gusty in some other spots as well, and at least breezy through the day on Saturday. The other thing about the wind is that our high temperatures on Saturday, say in Sacramento, 55 degrees, you throw in 10, 15 miles per hour of a strong north breeze all day long, it's just going to feel cold all day long. And that's mostly what the valley is going to experience with the changes coming up in the future. This is related to something called an inside slider. If you're not familiar with this, this really is deep down weather jargon, but I'm deciding to talk about it because it's kind of fun. It's interesting. The reason why we call it that is because instead of coming in from the Pacific, your normal way that you see a storm progress through our area in the wintertime, this one goes over the top of us over a giant ridge. Then it starts to form and then dives down on the east side of the Sierra. The way that this is rotating around is that it finds some moisture and then it moves it up the slope on the east side of the Sierra. If you've ever been to Reno and you look up at the mountains, it's very steep. And what can happen there, even with minimal moisture, is that it will find a way to squeeze it out and you get some light snow and very low snow levels. So watch out for Saturday and Sunday in the Sierra. We're looking at a chance of snow. It'll be really light, but this goes all the way down to Reno. The snow level with this pattern here is down to about 2,000 feet. Occasionally, some moisture can try and sneak down to the lower foothills, even closer to the edges of the east side of the valley, so I'd watch for that. Most you're going to get out of is clouds, maybe a sprinkle, maybe a light shower late in the day on Saturday. But then watch what happens when day 2 of this area of low pressure really does find true moisture. That means it's going to be the first decent rain for the LA basin this entire season. That's going to help. But then it moves out of here, and then we're going right back to a dry pattern. If you want to see the potential precip that we're looking at for all of this, it really is front-loaded going into Saturday to Sunday for Southern California, a little bit on our end. But then if you go back out into next week, we're starting to see the first signs between Thursday and Sunday that we could start to see a pattern change. Until we get there, though, we're mostly leaning dry over the next 10 to 14 days. And we are just waiting for the pattern to take shape and start to change for us. So again, our only near-term change is going to be on Saturday with windy conditions and some light Sierra snow. But you see the cloud cover here. Keep an eye on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. There are signs that the pattern can change, and hopefully rain starts coming back for Northern California, still looking dry in Southern California. Okay, now I'm going to switch over to snow, looking into the weekend. You know, we've had our moments and we are still technically above average for the northern Sierra and portions of the Cascades. But when you get to the central, southern Sierra, we're now below average. We're only about a third of the way where we need to be for a full snowpack in April. So yeah, because of weeks and weeks of lackluster precipitation and snow, we have now slipped behind average. At least one positive in all this is that getting to the Sierra is going to be pretty easy. We're not expecting chain control for 80, for 50, for 88, and then the portions of the road that are open, like 4 and 108, to get to, say, Dodge Ridge or Bear Valley. I would just watch out in the morning for ice. And we do need to at least pay attention on Saturday. Let's say it really all comes together. Once you get on the other side of the basin, there may be momentary chain controls for Truckee, South Lake Tahoe, just depending on the conditions. So at this point, getting to the resorts on a Friday, you're fine. But during the day on Saturday, maybe early on Sunday, that's the only time I'm thinking chain controls might come into play, just if the system really overperforms. As far as the expected lifts, because of the early season snow, a lot of the resorts have most of their lifts running, most of the terrain open. So they're doing a really good job of making the most of what they have. And for the 7-day forecast, we're mostly dry there. Again, watch for this cold storm on Saturday with some light snow expected during the day on Saturday, but it does clear up by Sunday. And then going in past that, we're back to a dry and warming pattern. So I think that pretty much sums it all up. That's your total California forecast.